Good evening, everybody. If you don't mind, we're going to get started here. We're a little bit past 5:30. We got a lot to get to. We appreciate all of you coming out. I know the weather was kind of questionable today. I got caught in the rain myself, but I'm glad to see everybody who came out here tonight and made it here safely. My name is Jeff Davila. I'm the president of the GT Advisory Council. Joining me this evening is Mr. Danny Lopez, our vice president. We have Ms. Lizzie Aguilar Cruz, our secretary. And representing the Northside ISD Gifted and Talented and Advanced Academics District Office, we have Ms. Courtney Mayer, the coordinator for GT and Advanced Academics, and Ms. Kim Stewart, the instructional support teacher. And I will turn the mic real quick over to Kim to let her make an announcement. Certainly.
Thank you. So we want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Just so you all know, we do offer this meeting at satellite campuses. So while you guys here at NEF are seeing this live, we're filming, and we have groups throughout the district also viewing in. So we're glad to have all of you here tonight. I just wanted to make a quick announcement about something kind of cool going on. We have a state organization, the Texas Association of Gifted and Talented. I encourage everybody to Google and find out more about it. It's, I believe, txgifted.org. But next week is GT Awareness Week. And there is a special seminar that is free for parents on, I believe, let me double check my date, on the 25th. Yes, on the 25th. And so if you guys go to their website, again, texasgifted.org, and just kind of follow the links, you do need to register so that they'll send you the link. But it is free. It'll be at 6:30. And it's just going to offer you some great strategies on parenting gifted students. It's again, a free opportunity for you that we've not seen come up before. There'll be different little things going on each day of next week. The actual GT Awareness Day is going to be on the 27th, but the parent seminar, again, will be on the 25th. So just a resource for you that I wanted to make sure everybody knew about, okay?
Thank you so much, Kim, for that information. Does anybody have any questions about that announcement before we continue? Okay, well, we usually also like to start off the meeting by reading the mission statement. For those of you joining us for the first time, to give you an idea of what we do with the GT Advisory Council. At the top of your agenda, if you read along with me, the mission of the Gifted and Talented Enrichment Advisory Council is to enhance the opportunities and experiences of students in Northside ISD by identifying and recommending improvements for the district's Gifted and Talented program, by expanding public opinion and awareness through communications, and by providing funds for grants and specialized GT projects. The last portion of that sentence there is going to lead us to number 2 on the agenda, which is a general announcement about some of our planned fundraising activities for this school year. As some of you may remember, this past spring we had organized the first ever GT Walkathon for Northside ISD, and it was very successful, and we received a lot of compliments about that. A lot of people enjoyed themselves that night, so we are planning to do it again. At this time, the tentative date for that walkathon is March 22nd, 2019, and the location will once again be at Brandeis High School at the track/football field there. And for those of you who don't know, Brandeis is near Hausman and 1604, very close to the Ferris Athletic Complex out in that area for Northside. Oh, yes, thank you, yeah. The money that we raise goes into 2 different projects that the GT Advisory Council oversees. The longer lasting of those 2 projects is what we call the Ignite Fund, which gives grants out to our GT specialists. Every school year, GT specialists from throughout the district are able to apply with an idea or a proposal to receive up to $500 to fund their proposal. And that is what we call the Ignite Grant. like I said, that's open to all GT teachers throughout the district, whether it be elementary, middle, or high school teachers. So that's a very worthwhile cause that we have funded for many years, and we plan to continue that for many years. The newer of those two funds is going to be our Ignite Scholarship, which we actually just started this past school year. And if some of you were there during that time, it was a very joyous occasion where we were able to award the first GT scholarship in Northside's history to Miss Maya Hammer, from a graduate from Stevens High School. To my understanding, Miss Hammer is now enjoying sunny Malibu, California at Pepperdine University, so we're very proud of her, and we hope to stay in contact with her for years to come. In addition to our walkathon, we're going to have some other fundraising activities primarily focused with high school students, and the money raised from those fundraising events with high school is going to go toward the Ignite Scholarship. If any of you have high school students, you'll likely hear about those events as the information becomes available through your high school GT specialist. So that information has not been solidified yet, but you will hear through the grapevine through that GT specialist at your child's high school. For middle school and elementary school, as I mentioned, the walkathon is going to cover middle school and elementary school primarily for this year. But we do have another fundraising partner for this year, and I actually am surprised that we received these items today just in time. I didn't think we were going to have them just yet. But we're partnering with a local car wash chain called Zips Car Wash. Have any of you ever heard of Zips Car Wash? Or have been, okay, a few people. They have, to my understanding, 9 convenient San Antonio locations, but we are selling a 1-month car wash pass that you can use at any of those San Antonio locations, and unlimited amounts of washes within that 30-day period. We are selling those car wash cards for $10 a piece. Like I said, I do have them today, so if any of you are interested before you leave today, please meet up with me, and we'll make sure we get you one of those. But like I said, the only catch, as far as I've been told, is you can only purchase one card per car. So I believe that the card gets assigned to a particular vehicle. And so if you do have multiple vehicles, you can purchase multiple cards. We encourage you to do that. But they ask that you do not purchase multiple cards for just one car. Yeah, that's something that their corporate office had dictated to us. So we are proud to have them as a partner in fundraising this year, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the deal that we're able to work out with them. Any questions about fundraising for this year? I know you guys probably hate to be hit up for money as much as I do, and you probably get hit this way and that way and everywhere in between. But I promise you that our fundraising efforts are carefully chosen, and they go toward very worthy causes, and 100% of the money that we raise goes directly into those two funds to fund either that scholarship or the Ignite grants. So rest assured that that money is going to be well spent. So on to the next item. I am fortunate enough at the beginning of this year, in January 2018, I was invited to be part of the Texas Education Commissioner's Advisory Council for the Education of the Gifted and Talented. We just call it CAC for short because it's a mouthful. We've had a couple of meetings since that time, and I will tell you that we are hitting the ground running with what's going on with CAC. If any of you are familiar, especially the educators in the house, with the state plan for gifted and talented education, we are in the process of completely revamping that state plan. The last time that it was revised was 2009, to my understanding, so almost 10 years ago. So we are in the process of completely revamping that. I mean, there's going to be some similarities to what the state plan has looked like before. Obviously, we're going to use this former state plan as guidelines, but we are changing some things in the state plan. So some exciting things going on there, definitely things to look forward to, and proof that the state is concerned about gifted and talented education. Any questions about what's going on at the state level with GT? Do you
know how long that's going to take?
To my understanding, the earliest that we would have it done would be spring of 2019. That would be the absolute earliest. Would you agree with that, Ms. Lers? Okay. Yeah, that's what I remember hearing, and from my experience with government entities, I think that's being optimistic. It may be the next school year, the beginning of the next school year before it actually takes effect, because it does still have to be approved by the Texas Board of Education. But the good thing is that the Texas Board of Education is very willing to cooperate, and they seem excited about making much needed changes to the state plan. Any other questions? Okay, well, on that note, I will thankfully be passing the microphone off to Northside's GT coordinator, Ms. Courtney Mayer, who's going to give you an exciting update about some of the happenings with Northside GT.
Yes, good evening. I'm going to go through a really quick PowerPoint, not going to spend a lot of time on it, just some updates of what the GT and Advanced Academics Department did last year that might be of interest to you. So first off, you may have heard at some of our campuses last year, we started with 5. We started a new program called MAC GT, which is clustering GT students with high ability math students into a particular classroom altogether, and then enriching what they're doing in that class. It was very successful. The campuses with the stars are the asterisks are the ones that were last year. We spread it to 8 more campuses this year. We will be supporting those 8 new campuses plus our 5 last year campuses, and we'll continue to spread it district-wide as this pilot spreads. So we are doing that. If your campus is up there, your kid should be in that clustered GT class. I'm not going to, yes. It's 1st through 5th. We just don't do it in kinder because we don't identify the kids in kinder till the spring semester. Yeah, please feel free to ask questions. I'm not going to go through the individual numbers here. You can see it, but this is just showing we trained a whole lot of Northside teachers in GT strategies to meet the needs of your kiddos this last year. And so GT strategies that span from things, the social and emotional, like Ms. Lers is going to talk about today, to classroom differentiation strategies, etc. So lots of teachers trained. We also, if you're familiar with the high school and actually middle school courses, we have ways for kids to earn college credit in high school and middle school that traditionally has been through AP, and if they pass the AP exam, and through dual credit, which is a partnership with Northwest Vista here in town. They get credit that way. We started a new one last year with UT Austin, and we started small. We'd never done it before. And 479 students walked away with a UT transcript last year. So that's pretty phenomenal. This year we have spread it even bigger to 3 more courses, and we are now offering every dual enrollment, they call it, versus dual credit, which Northwest Vista calls it. We are offering every course they offer at least one of our campuses. So that's pretty exciting as well. And then finally, the last thing I have is the AP scores. We have worked very, very hard at increasing our AP, not only enrollment, because there is a lot of studies to show that just a kid sitting in an AP class at the middle school or high school level is going to be more successful in college. Tons of studies to show that, but we would also love it if they also pass the test so that they get the credit. As you can see, number of exams administered, the red is last year. So we administered more AP exams than ever before. Over 14,000 AP exams were administered in Northside. If we want to know how many students, because one student might take 5 exams, we had more students than ever sit for at least one AP exam, which is great. More kids are taking that opportunity. And the traditional studies would say as more kids and more exams are administered, pass rates go down because there may be a lot of kids that aren't prepared for that, but that didn't happen in Northside. We had way more exams passed than ever before, which was also way more students than ever before that at least passed an exam. So we had almost 4,000 kids walk away with some form of college credit, at least one course, 3-hour course. And our percentage of pass rate went up as well. So we are now very close to the global pass rate for AP exams for the rest of the world. If we look at percentages of kids, also went up. More percentage of kids that took the exam that passed at least one also went up. And then this is just showing where we are, north side versus the state and versus the rest of the world. And we are in some courses above the rest of the world. I know this is national, but it's actually global. There are kids in China taking this test, as well as other countries. And then finally, this last little slide here shows a progression across the years of the light blue line is number of exams that kids sat for and didn't pass. The darker blue line is number of exams kids sat for and passed. And you can see that we are closing that gap, where more kids are sitting and actually being successful on the exam. Okay? And then this just says some things that we've done in the past few years to make that happen. Any questions on? Yes, sir. I think it's a little bit of a lot of things. So I don't know that I can put it to one thing. One of the biggest things is we started training our pre-AP teachers what the needs were and what the skills were to pass an AP exam, so that the kids would come to AP and not be like, what's a free response question? I've never heard of that. That they're like, free response questions, we've been answering those since 6th grade in pre-AP, right? And so that's one of the big things. We also brought in College Board consultants, who are the people that the College Board has hired to train teachers, and we brought them in last year to do study sessions with our students right before the exam. I think that was very helpful. Pulled all of our teachers and had them really look at their data following a protocol of where are our weak areas and how can we improve on what's truly where we're struggling as a teacher in an AP class. So I think it's a bunch of things that led to that. I don't know that I could put it on one, although I think pre-AP is really big. Which is sixth grade, yes. So a couple more years, a few more years. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that MAC GT program?
Sure.
Like what it is or what it looks like?
Okay. So what we're doing is studies. We looked at a lot of different research articles for a lot of years back on the best way to meet GT kids' needs. And one of the things that it said is put them together. Put them in a class together and let them feed off kids that are like them with that same intellectual ability. And so we did that. Plus, we also read a bunch of articles that said that the most neglected in a classroom student is the really high math kid. Like, that's a really hard kid to hit in a regular classroom. And so we said, let's take our GT kids and our really high, maybe not identified GT, but high ability math kids, put them together, and let's deepen what they're doing. We're not going to accelerate them. We're not going to do 4th grade work in 3rd grade, but let's go deeper into those concepts with these kids that can do it a little bit faster. And we're training the teachers on how to do that. So that's...
Like shift for like one, like my daughter's in 2nd grade, so like she's not at one.
They would all be together, all the GT kids. Like right now, your daughter may be one of 1 or 2 or 3 in her class of GT kids, but then the other teacher has 1 or 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 or 3, right? They would all be in one class is the whole day. So we're trying it. We know that most of the campuses are not up there. We also know that we're a very large district and it's going to take a while to spread it. But we've got a plan to get every campus on this program. The plan right now is 8 years. We're in year 2. But there are 79 elementaries, and so it just we have to do it with fidelity and systematically to make sure that we're doing it right. So all the skills that we're training, are good for all kids. But we're going to have to take it slow with how we spread it. I'm not going to hand it over to Priscilla. I'm going to hand it over to Jeff. I'll hand you that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that information, Courtney. I just want it to be known that, once again, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is a forum to get information like this. So you just heard basically a state of the GT program for Northside address from Courtney Mayer, the coordinator for GT for Northside. So this is a place that you can come and you can receive this type of information directly from the source. And you can also ask questions about the program directly to the source. And so we encourage you to continue coming back. We will be meeting 4 times this school year. And as far as I know, it's right here at Patton F. Middle School. And so you already know the way here. And for those of you at the satellite locations, we do send out notifications about where those satellite locations will be before every broadcast. Now, if there are no additional questions about any of the information covered so far, I would like to introduce somebody that, well, I don't know if she really needs an introduction because I know she's well known around Northside already, but I'm going to introduce her anyway. Mrs. Priscilla Lers has been a classroom teacher, a gifted education specialist, and still remains a passionate advocate for high ability and gifted learners. In 2014, she retired after 35 years as a public school educator. 25 of those years were spent specifically with gifted and talented education. Mrs. Lers was a GT enrichment teacher in Alamo Heights ISD previously and in Howard County Public School System in Columbia, Maryland. The last 18 years of her career, Priscilla was the coordinator of GT and enrichment programs K through 12 right here in Northside ISD. She served on the Texas Education Commissioners Advisory Council on the education of gifted and talented students, what we called CAC earlier. It's a mouthful. Originally, Priscilla represented the role of Texas Administrator on this council and later served representing the Texas Association for the Gifted and Talented, or TAGT. Currently, Ms. Lers is the immediate past president of the TAGT Board of Directors. So this is someone that we're so pleased to welcome as a longtime advocate for gifted and talented education. So without further ado, Ms. Priscilla Lers.
Thank you so much. Well, I feel like it's a homecoming. It's just really special to be here and see so many familiar faces and also so many new faces. This is a wonderful advisory council, and it's great to see it continue to grow and be strong. I was thrilled to see some of the data up there that Courtney shared, knowing that there is a closing of that achievement gap. And I'm even more pleased that I was asked to come talk about the affective gap. And that is that so much of what students do in our classrooms really stems with how they're feeling inside and the thoughts that they have and the emotions that they have. And so it's important that we look at the affective gap just as much as it is as we look at the academic gap. So with that comment, I'll go ahead and get started. I want to commend parents who are here because you have been given a very special role of raising your children. There is no coincidence that your child was given to YOU. And it is a challenging task and a very, very important role. And so I want to just commend you for making an effort to learn more about how to raise your child, because it is a lifelong commitment, and we want them to be the very best they can possibly be. So with that said, congratulations again for being part of this advisory council. Parents of the gifted are often unable to talk to other parents whose children may not be identified as gifted. And part of that is the pressure to say, well, gosh, your child is passing easily, your child's making good grades, what are you worried about? And then that kind of makes you feel a little isolated. So it's important, and I encourage you as parents, to surround yourself with other parents who share the same type of challenges that you have with your exceptional child. Okay, well, there's research out there that shows that gifted youth and children are generally as well adjusted as the general population. But there are some characteristics that are inherent to the gifted. And part of that is that uneven development. And what we mean by that is that the physical, the cognitive, emotional, and social development of the gifted move at different rates. So the example is we have a 6-year-old who can cognitively reason as a 10-year-old, but may decide to behave at any time they wish as a 4-year-old. Right? I'm hearing yes, You don't know what is going to actually come forth and when it will come forth. Is this the 10-year-old? Is this the 4-year-old? Or is this the chronological 6-year-old? And so for that, because there's such a span, it can be difficult to parent, to teach, and to counsel these kids. And as a GT parent told me just today, it can be very difficult to be this child. The frontal lobe of the young gifted brains do not develop any faster than those of their other peers. They're still going to be their chronological age, physically. Therefore, and this is important, we can't expect the gifted to have more advanced decision-making skills or be more socially and emotionally mature than their peers despite their higher intelligence. So they may sound like a little adult, but they really don't have that emotional maturity that matches what their intellect is currently at the level. That stays with them all of their lives. That undeveloped, uneven development stays with them. And so learning certain skills and coping strategies early can make a real difference in having them succeed down their journey of life. So, it would be helpful for you, which I commend you because you're here tonight, to have a basic understanding of giftedness. Some gifted kids may not want to share their concern with others because they assume that they're smart, therefore they should be able to figure it out. And that is not so. Yes, they are smart, and there are going to be some things that they can easily solve, but they're still children, they're still young youth, and they need that support system. So it helps for you to be informed as a parent to know the different developmental stages that a gifted child goes through. The other thing that's helpful to know is to help your child understand that it is normal for everyone at any age to experience some anxieties. Because some kids, if they're not able to talk about it, will hold it inside and think something must not be right with me. Instead of being able to talk, bring it forth and realize that it's okay. It's just part of the human journey. And again, a helpful hint is for you to take their issues seriously. It may seem small to us as an adult because of the experiences we've had and the years that we've lived on this earth, but to them, it's new and it's important. And so validating that their issues are taken seriously will go very far in your relationship with your child. And then know when it's beyond your level of a parent to help and whether you should get further assistance, maybe from the school counselor or the teacher. I know that Kim put this plug in, and so I'm going to do it as well on Tuesday, the 25th. One other way to help you get further acquainted with your gifted child's needs is to join that the free parent webinar. And there are also some wonderful parent resources that are located at the www.textgifted.org. Okay, this is an all-encompassing topic. There are college, university master classes that spend semesters on this course. So we're just going to have a small, condensed version tonight. So we're just skimming the surface. The three main things that we'll touch upon is going to be perfectionism, underachievement, teasing and bullying, all of which may cause stress. And whatever the stress may be, it's good to have some techniques and strategies that you can help your student and child be able to learn so that they can manage their stress successfully. So the first one being perfectionism. And it's basically defined in a nutshell, a tendency to regard anything less than perfection as unacceptable. There are some advantages to perfectionism, and that is in its positive form, it actually can be the driving energy which leads to achievement. So a little bit of that perfectionism in a positive form is healthy and good. Some signs of it may be there's self-acceptance of the mistakes. Oh, well, I made a mistake. We're going to move on. What did I learn from this mistake? They have positive coping strategies, which are some of the things that I hope to present tonight. And then personal effort is important. It's an important part of the overall achievement. So they see that it's not been a waste of their time to accomplish something, that they gained something for having gone through it. You may have heard, or if you're a member of Costco, I happened to see this lady at the front. She was on the cover of the Costco magazine that they give out. And that's Dr. Angela Duckworth. And she has pretty much brought to the surface a wonderful meaning of grit. We've heard it, but now it's a part of social emotional learning for our children. And basically, it's perseverance and passion for long-term goals. It's that self-motivation that allows students to persevere through a task. She studied why some individuals accomplish more than other individuals despite having the same talent, intelligence, and resources. There are 4 signs of grit. This was kind of like convicting it as well, because it was like, do I still have grit in my old age here? Because it's an important life skill to have at any season in life. An enduring interest. Frustrations are simply seen as part of the process. And they'll look at any circumstance, even in the smallest way, and they will find meaning. It wasn't a waste. There was something profitable for my going through this experience. And the belief that one can change and grow at any age. So you're not too young and you're not too old. That's a comment that can be very tempting to say, whether you're a teacher or a parent, is to say you're too young to be worried about these things. Well, if they're talking about whatever these things may be with you, they're ready. And they aren't too young. And it needs to be addressed at that point. Because otherwise the message can be, something must be wrong with me. If my mom or dad or somebody's telling me I'm too young to be worried about this, the hidden message that they hear is, something must be wrong with me then. When really there isn't anything. It's just where they are at that given time in their life. Okay, so 5 ways to develop grit. Focus on your words. Language is important. It really can change the course of someone's life. So use language that encourages perseverance and praises effort. Not, oh, you're so smart. Because they're not always going to act in a smart way. So it's the effort. It's the progress they're making. That's where our language needs to be, in the form of focusing on those characteristics. Surround yourself with people who persevere. That is important. We have a choice as to who we want to surround ourselves with. And teaching kids early who brings out the best in them is important. Because oftentimes, bad company can corrupt good people. The third one is adopt flexible thinking patterns. So being less rigid or being flexible allows for resilience and grit to blossom. Set tiny goals that align with the overall purpose, because that'll help keep that motivation high. And then build time in your day to reflect. And that reflection is focus on the positive. Yes, there may have been some negative things that occurred. What were some things that we learned from that situation? And what's the positive beyond that? Have you ever had somebody compliment you on things, but then someone else said something negative? You had 20 people say wonderful things about what you did and who you are, and you walk away remembering that one negative experience. It's easy to go down that route. It's learning to take our thoughts down a different direction. Focus on the positive, and that helps us to plan positive things to occur in the next stage of our program or our activities. Another person who's very much a part of the social-emotional world is Dr. Carol Dweck, a professor of psychology at Stanford. And her research was based on a program to show the impact of mindsets. Again, everything starts as a thought. How we think is how we act. She showed how a person's mindset sets the stage for either performance goals or learning goals. A performance goal is a person who just wants to look smart. And they're probably not going to do the risk-taking because they risk themselves looking stupid or dumb. And or at least she refers to that as a fixed mindset, because they're probably going to stunt their growth if they're not willing to take some risks. And so we'd rather have a person with a learning goal who pursues interesting and challenging tasks in order to learn more. So it's this thirst and hunger, that's inquisitiveness, wanting to learn more, even if at times they don't look like the smartest individual. It's okay. That's part of the learning process. This is a beautiful quote. She's got a lot of quotes, but this is one of my favorites. If parents want to give their children a gift, the best thing they can do is to teach their children to love challenges, be intrigued by mistakes, enjoy effort, and keep on learning. That is a huge life skill that follows us through every season of life. And kids have a tendency to not necessarily do what you say, but do what you do. And so if you model this type of thinking, it will become just part of their nature as well. People with growth mindsets, they see effort as a pathway to mastery. So it's good to put forth some effort because I'm going to master it even further. And we have gifted students who they've just breezed by and they haven't really learned how to put out a lot of effort. And that can be detrimental because, again, then they're afraid to not look smart. And that's a fixed mindset versus that open or growth. All right, these individuals with growth mindset, they learn from criticism instead of taking it personally as an offense. And they find lessons and inspiration from the success of others. That's hard because a little bit of competition is there and we want to win and be number one. But it's also helpful during your reflection time to see how did that person win? And what could I have learned from that? What treasures or little nuggets of jewels I can take out and apply to my life? And then these people will reach ever higher levels of achievement. So if we close the affective gap, we're we're actually going to be closing that achievement gap as well. Fixed mindsets. Well, these individuals may have difficulty moving forward when facing challenging work. They can't handle criticism because these individuals will take it personally. It'll be critical of self. They aren't going to be the risk taker for fear of failing, so why should I even try? And they're threatened by the success of others. So a fixed mindset can result in developing a negative or dysfunctional perfectionism, because then you've got someone who is paralyzed with fear of looking dumb and failing or disappointing you, and they won't move forward. Okay, so some attributes of negative or dysfunctional perfectionist: anxiety about making mistakes. I used to have a poster in one of my classrooms that an error is not a terror. These individuals need constant approval, and they don't even want to reward or celebrate any improvements. Can you see how this could cause stress? Do you see any of these traits in your child as you reflect on their words and actions? Okay, thinking patterns of perfectionism. We're going to go through these real quickly. Roller coaster emotions, happy or sad, nothing in between. Obsessing about the future, what's next, what's next, they're worried. Pining over the past, if only, coulda, woulda, should've. Goals are obsessive. They run the life, ignoring friends, family, and even personal health, because the goals are what's important. Nothing but the best. Constant do-overs. It's either all or nothing. And a need to control every detail, to include people. You know, it's difficult to control people. It's difficult to control circumstances. If we think we're really in control, we basically lie to ourselves, because none of us really are in control. There's some things we can help along, but ultimately a natural disaster can happen or whatever can occur. And so we just need to be able to be flexible, go with the flow, learn from it, modify and adjust as we go along. Okay, some strategies then for managing perfectionism. Express courage, grand courage, and everyday courage. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Reward experimenting, an attempt of trying and open to learning from trial and error. So it's okay. We tried it. We learned from it. And we're all the better for having survived it. Let's take those treasure nuggets, gain some insights, and move forward. Expect progress, not perfection. Applaud persistence. Help kids see, and this is so important, help kids see struggles like puzzles to solve rather than problems to react to. Because their reaction can be sometimes, throw yourself on the floor and have a temper tantrum. Even though they may be 7 years old, that's a 2-year-old behavior. But they can do that. Why? Because they can. Break down tasks into smaller, obtainable tasks. And animal people, don't email me about this. It's just a figure of speech. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So it's just basically some goals seem monumental, but let's break it up into smaller. And then honor the invested time that your child puts forth in a project. Okay, grand courage and everyday courage. What do you think trying a food you've never tried before falls under? Grand or everyday courage? You're right, the daily courage. What about asking someone out on a date? Is that considered grand or everyday in the bigger scheme of things? Well, yes, and depending on the individual, it can be, if that person is extremely shy, it could be grand. But on the most part, It's daily. All right. But military personnel and their families defending the freedom of the United States, absolutely. And have the kids be able to define, was this an everyday or a grand? Because it helps you to understand where they are in their lives as well, too. Okay. I never make the same mistake twice. I make it 5 or 6 times just to be sure that I was wrong. Okay? Making mistakes is better than faking perfectionism or perfection. So, again, how do you make a mistake in front of your child? How do you react when you make a mistake? Because kids, again, may not do what you say, but they will do what you do. We're not going to show this, but if you have time tonight, like for your homework, go to YouTube and just plug in famous failures. And you'll see this. It's a small little video, but it's really quite interesting, and it's good. It's good to watch. All right. The next topic was underachievement. And that's a discrepancy between potential achievement and actual achievement. That failure to develop or use the potential. They have the potential of achieving here, but they may be achieving right here. Okay, there's a variety of reasons for underachievement. And here they are. These are just some of them. Sometimes the gifted kids will hide their giftedness simply to fit in with their social group. The lack of challenging material. Why should I even do this if I already know it? I see some heads nodding. You may have had that experience in your household. The opposite, deliberately failing, then admitting you don't know something, because gifted kids are supposed to know everything. And then an unhealthy perfectionism. Overly high expectations can be paralyzing. There's no way I'm going to get into Harvard, so I won't even try. I'd rather fail on purpose than fail and disappoint mom and dad. Not all gifted kids get A's, and gifted students are not gifted in everything. Some strategies to use with our underachievers: help them set realistic goals. Teach them how to prioritize their task. And this is so important. Empower them to take charge by teaching them to say no to distractions. Because they may just want to please everybody, that it's difficult to say, no, I'm not going to do that right now because I have to do this particular task for this project. So if they can start taking charge of how to manage their distractions, that empowers them as individuals. Gifted kids are often the targets of teasing and bullying. So this is the next one. As I told you, we're speeding through. Teasing is actually another form of criticizing. And although bullying is not the same as teasing, both do include direct criticisms. The person who teases is usually putting others down. Bullying is ongoing, sustained, and it usually has a malicious intent. And as you know, gifted kids can sometimes be the target for teasing and bullying. Some strategies are: inform the school. The teacher, the counselor, the principal. There is a system in place that your school, your child's school, has just for teasing and bullying. Help gifted kids to know their peers, because there really is safety and comfort in numbers. Take your kids' teasing or the report of teasing and bullying seriously. They want to know that you aren't going to take their big problems as nothing, that you're there to listen. You're that confidant that they can come to. Help kids understand that reporting bullying is not tattling, but is preventing potential serious issues. And there's a difference there. Okay, so all of these things cause stress. And so these last slides are really going to be ideas on how we can help our kids handle stress. And again, it's an encouragement to you as well, because the kids will see how you handle stress. All right, gifted kids have heightened intensity. But this intensity doesn't mean treating them fragile. Encourage kids to open up to a safe confidant. Hopefully that's going to be you. If not, then someone that you trust them to be able to speak with. Rules may need to be explained because the gifted will see rules as pointless. But again, rules without relationship leads to rebellion. And really, all kids are going to rebel at some time in their lives, but if they've got that relationship with a responsible adult, it will help ease that phase. Normalize emotional intensities. It's important that they realize that that's normal for who they are as an individual. Align the child with like-minded peers and adults, because it's never too early or too late to find a mentor or establish a tribe of peers. Help your child to develop strategies for recognizing stress reactions and coping with the stress. So it could be a little brother who does whatever, and that causes, it's almost toxic in their relationship when it reaches whatever point. So what can we do to not have it reach to that point? Or when it is, what can we do to diffuse some of the heightened emotions we have? Help your child understand his or her own behaviors and how behaviors impact others. They understand cause and effect reasoning. And just as a way to calm down, it's helpful to teach the child to rate their emotions from 1 to 10. Just like if you were in the hospital and you had pain, if you've ever gone even to the doctor and they said, on a scale from 1 to 10, what is your pain level? Is it a 9, which is quite high, or are we at a 1 or 2? Okay, so that helps the student to then reflect, where am I on this scale? And then communicate it. Other strategies could be use vocabulary that's appropriate to their intellectual reasoning. In other words, it doesn't help to talk down to them. Use a positive, direct approach. Analyzing, clarifying, paraphrasing, those can be effective. Be honest and realistic, not overly optimistic, because they can see a fake. If anyone can see a fake, it is a child, and all the more a gifted child. And use appropriate humor, because humor has a way to diffuse those heightened emotions. I found this and I thought of my mother. The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. God bless my mother. She has passed. It's been years now, but I can still hear some of her words inside. And so you have a powerful influence on the lives of your children. Let your voice that is going to be in them be one that is positive and encouraging for growth mindsets and for establishing perseverance and grit. Okay, so help your child understand that emotions are not liabilities. That's huge. Emotions often spark our joy and our passion, which fuels intellectual capabilities to learn and create wonderful works. And ideally, all children should be taught to view heightened emotions as an asset. It's how they're wired. It's how they were created to be. Overscheduling. Some gifted high achievers want to take extra courses, be on every team, be in every club. They're passionate about everything. avoid some overscheduling. And this is interesting. Remember that gifted students need time to rest and think. So try as their teacher and their parent to model and encourage a balanced lifestyle. That's a huge gift you can give your child. Try not to put intense pressure on gifted students. My brilliant daughter will be a brain surgeon. Well, that might be your goal, but her destiny may be something different. She's brilliant, but medicine may not be her passion or interest. Kids may feel that their parents value them only for their giftedness, that's that good performance. And consequently, they become terrified of failing or making mistakes because you may not love them. And that we know as adults and parents, that's not true. But our kids don't know that. And so that's the hidden message they could be telling themselves. If I don't perform well, my parents aren't going to approve or love me. And so what I think, if kids could say anything to you and me, it would be this statement. Love me for who I am, not who you want me to be. And I'll close with a quote from E.E. Cummings. To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight. Encourage your gifted kids to maintain their true inner self. Thank you again for allowing me to share this information. It's been wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Ms. Priscilla Lers for taking the time this evening to spend that much-needed time with us to educate all of us on social emotional needs of gifted students. I'm just going to take a few moments to make sure there's no other questions from anyone in-house or from the remote sites before we move on to the next thing. Yeah, but I'm so grateful to you, Ms. Lers, for spending the time with us this evening. Yeah, like it's such a valuable resource. That's what I can't emphasize that enough to the audience here and at our remote locations. This council strives to be that go-to resource to provide you information, books, articles, just any type of emotional resource or educational resource that you may need. We also welcome suggestions and concerns and everything, but we also want to be a welcoming environment to share ideas and collaborate with each other to make this program the best program that it can be with Northside ISD. So is there any more questions? Yes, thank you so much for that input. And for the people at the remote sites, the comment was that Northside ISD as a whole is taking an initiative teaching growth mindset in the campuses as we speak. And this will hopefully open up dialogue between the student and the parent, where perhaps the student can relay what's on their mind, and for a change, the parent can understand what they're talking about. Right? I know Danny Lopez and I know he's going to want to make some remarks in just a minute. But we both are graduates of Northside ISD, and both were prior members of the GT program as students. And we've both had discussions about, what it's like to be a GT student, and maybe have, parents from a different generation that didn't really know what gifted education was all about, or, not that it was any bad intention or anything, but they just, didn't grow up in the same time frame. And so, once again, we try to provide that resource to open that dialogue and have that collaboration between you as the parents and then, your children as the gifted students. So if we can ever be of any assistance or support in that adventure, please don't hesitate to let us know. And just for the remote sites, so they know, a comment was made by a parent in the audience regarding his child looking forward to his GT class, even though it's only once a day for an hour per day, you said, sir? And that's one thing, we welcome you back, and we encourage comments and feedback, because this is the audience that, needs to hear it. There are decision makers in this room at different levels. I mean, you have the coordinator for the GT program here. I meet with the superintendent of Northside, whom I'll mention. He'll more than likely be our guest at the next meeting, which is November 8th. For those of you taking notes, our next meeting of the GT Advisory Council right here at NEF or at the remote locations will be November 8th, same time from 5:30 to 7. But I welcome you to come back and also, make that comment known to Dr. Woods. If you feel that, your child would benefit by having, more time in GT, I mean, please make that known. Because what we strive to do from the GT Council, and just to clarify, those of us on the GT Council, the majority of us on the GT Council don't actually work for Northside. We're elected by the body that we serve, and we advocate for the GT program at the district level with Northside. And so, I mean, this is, like I said, the right audience to bring that concern up to, because we will take that concern and that comment to the administration of Northside and throw that idea out there. Can we expand this? Can we change this? Can we change that? It's something that's constantly adapting, much like they refer to the Declaration of Independence, right? It's a living document. This is a living program. I mean, it's changed a lot since Danny and I were in it as students, and I'm sure it'll continue to change as the years go on. So, thank you. So, does anybody want to say anything else about?
Just that's the whole point of the GT, which I know is not at every campus, but that is the initiative, is to get every day to feel like GT, all day,
Yes.
every day in the regular classroom.
And to that point, I mean, that is a new program, and see, those are things that we advocate for, those type of changes to get, the ideal scenario would be to have all GT all the time, right? But obviously there's logistical concerns and funding concerns and things with that, but, it's those comments and that feedback that we can adapt the program or try to, make it into a better program for everybody. So... yeah, you've definitely come to the right place for that. Yes, sir.
It all ties into the last statement of Priscilla having a presentation that the kids, they look forward to that time to come to class, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, because it's the only place, you'll hear it from every one of the kids, that it's the only place where I feel free to be myself and express myself, because I can't do it in the regular classroom. Just because, it's a whole different environment there. The teachers have a lot on themselves to teach the whole curriculum. And but when we get to pull the kids aside to be with each other from the various classrooms, or whether in the same classroom, it's a whole different atmosphere of acceptance and freedom for them to be themselves for that time that they're with us, and that's why they look forward to it so much. So, whatever changes come about over the next few years, that'll be good. But right now, it ties into that, so the emotional aspect. Every kid comes in. A long time ago when I first started, this little girl just came running into the room and she goes, "Oh, my sanctuary." I still remember that. And I had a little boy today. He's, he speaks on these high levels. I think he's interesting. But today he actually, big old boy. He doesn't say anything in class because he's not allowed to. But when he comes over here, he talks like I'm doing it now too much. But he said that very same thing. And Gina had a student say that she was talking to her student's mom here, and then the same thing. It's I can be myself here, and I'm free to express myself, and nobody's going to criticize me for it. That's what they look forward to now. So this comes along with that.
The district is doing something to teach or help the teachers to know how to manage the kids of class. Because, for example, my son is so concerned to have a gel face or a blue face or something that measures the behavior of the room. That he is a very proactive kid, need to be moving, and the teacher always brings that facilities. I finish quickly, and now what is next? What is next? It's a fight between the teacher and us.
We understand that, and that's why we do, as teachers, we try to provide training for our teachers, and it's an open door policy. I have teachers come to my classroom all the time and just say, I have so-and-so, and I'm like, I know so-and-so, yes. And I said, what can I help you with? So part of it is hopefully making that connection with the specialist and having them support the teacher. Because sometimes it's not that they don't want to, they just don't have the training for that. And so hopefully we'll open up some, having a GT child is a great in your classroom, because I've been on both sides of it. And it is quite an experience, and you have to just kind of always constantly be staying ahead of the game, and it calls for lots of planning, and then yet you have the other curve on the other side. So I certainly understand, but hopefully having that good relationship with that GT specialist, and so they can provide the resources for that teacher so that she can have that what's next.
One of my soapbox issues, and I won't go off on it, but is exactly that, what Gina addressed. Teachers in their teacher prep programs are honestly not trained to know how to work with gifted students. Rarely is gifted education even covered in teacher prep programs. So I believe, I'm hoping that having people like Priscilla and Jeff involved at the state level, that maybe someday that will change. But in the meantime, we do our best to train our GT specialists to be that resource for all the teachers on their campus. And so communicating your concerns with the GT specialist is, I believe, the best place to start, because they are given the tools. I mean, we meet with them monthly. We have all kinds of trainings. You saw the numbers on the numbers of teachers we do train each year in Northside. And so we really try to equip all teachers with the tools they need to work with gifted students. I think we have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just shifting gears a little bit. Prior to my daughter being identified as gifted, I had done some research on typical characteristics of gifted children. And one of the things that came up was a higher prevalence of anxiety and depression as they get older into middle school and things like that. My daughter right now is 7, but she does struggle with anxiety because she has the ability to understand concepts that she's not emotionally old enough to cope with, I guess. As they go along in these programs, and I guess I really should ask you, as they go along in those programs, are there going to be any focus? Because I know there's things that we as parents can do, that's what we talk about, what can we do as parents. But outside of that, do you guys discuss that at all within the GT courses of, these are, this is higher in your group, this is what you need to be aware of, this is, are there workshops for that? Like, how does that work?
Gina, can I ask you to come up here? So we have had some frustration from our satellite campuses because we're having a great conversation here at NEF and they can't hear. So Gina, if you don't mind, just to address her question so that you're not talking there. So the question is, oftentimes our gifted students do have some of the very same characteristics that Ms. Lers talked about, especially anxiety, which tends to be higher in students with gifted. And she was addressing her question actually to Ms. Reyna, who is one of our veteran GT specialists that I'm now putting on the spot. But I do want her to speak to all of you who are out there at our satellite campuses as well. So, sorry.
All right. I want you to know I don't dress like this every day. It is Celebrate Freedom Week, and it was Camo Day, so I know I'm breaking dress code. But what I did want to say is, as teachers in the classroom, I know today with my 3rd grade class, we had a mini class meeting, and we do have we take opportunities to reflect at the end of every day about what they learned during the day, but also how they feel. And I know that we also have brought in the counselor to speak with kids. And but you're right, addressing those affective needs. And that is going to be addressed through that MAC GT program. I'm a big believer in that, because as we cluster those kids together, they feel like they have their peers with them. And that's very helpful. It's also the training of the teachers and being able to help them to understand what those children are feeling in the classroom. I mean, today we did the Alpha mission statement with my students because we're a Leader in Me school. And Alex, you were there. You're my witness because he was there listening to that. And we talked about, we had that conversation today. How many of you feel that people always assume that you know the answer to everything? And how many of you today felt like they're only looking at you in one parameter, which is that I'm gifted, and not who you truly want to be? So when we were writing our mission statement, we talked about how do we want others to perceive us? It isn't just about I am gifted. And one thing about gifted population, sorry, now that you opened the door, is that in many states, not particularly the state of Texas, but the gifted program is considered under the special ed umbrella. It is, not in the state of Texas, because your children are at risk of learning just the same way other children in the classroom who have special needs. They have a special teacher that comes in and works with them. And so I was trying to get the point across to my kids that you have a special teacher that comes in and works with you, and that's who I am. And that's my role for you. And so we want to make sure that that they're always learning and trying to take those obstacles away. And as far as workshops and things, this is a platform right here, being part of this GTEAC, because you have peers in here that are available. Getting involved with the TAGT, the Texas Association of Gifted and Talented. If you go on there, there's a component just for parents. I'm sorry, you opened the door. Y'all know me. So, but there is a parent. There is a parent link that you can go in there, and it will have a list of all kinds of resources for you, articles, things that will help you with parenting your child, as well as there's a teacher link too. So we go in there as well. But keeping that open relationship with your child so that they can always feel that they can come to you, that's number one. And then keeping that good relationship with the teacher as well, and saying, please keep me informed about what's going on in the classroom so that you're a team together. It's not team them or what, it's team us. Team us. And so I have 2 more years, 2020, my retirement, but I've got it for at least 2 more years, and I know we're going to pick a wonderful person at Wonky to come in after that. So did I address everything? And then some? Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to get to this right. I'll have you speak into the mic. Just say your question or come, just so everybody can hear, so we don't have to repeat it to you.
Okay, my question was back what he was talking about. He said his child was in 1st grade and she only gets 1 hour, and then the other parent was talking about she's in 3rd grade and she gets 4 hours. 5. Okay. Well, my question is, as they go through the grades, the higher they get in grade level, is it the more time they get, or?
I'll address that. Jeff, as he mentioned, doesn't work for Northside, so I'll go ahead and take that. So we have what we call a minimum, and I hate to say that our minimum is 2 hours for 1st and 2nd grade, but it is. So the 1 hour is a little alarming to us at the district level. But when they're in 1st and 2nd grade, we like them to be in GT at least 2 hours a week, and 3 hours for grades 3 through 5, okay? Now, after they leave elementary school, they get GT every day for 1 class period. They get to choose in middle school if they want to do GT ELA or GT Science or GT Social Studies. Yeah, so they can choose, which is really great because, they all kind of by that time know what their strengths are and what they're interested in. And then our high school program is phenomenal. They get to choose to elect to take GT leadership in their freshman and sophomore years, even in their junior year if they can't fit it in, because by the time they're in high school, there's a lot. And then we have an independent study mentor program, which is a year-long phenomenal program. So we do offer it at every level. Once they leave elementary, it can be part of their daily schedule. Does that help?
Yes. The reason I asked is because my son's he's in advanced. He's in advanced, and then my other son's in GT. Mm-hmm. And last year, my son was getting bullied. We felt, and he also got in trouble in class because he gets up too much. Because he's always done. And my other son got also in trouble for talking too much because he's done with his work. So the reason my question was because to see if they could be in GT all, obviously not. But that would have been at least a little bit longer.
But the key there is to train teachers on the needs of gifted students and highly capable students who may or may not be identified GT. And that is a work in progress. All different teachers have styles. I know Miss Reyna talked about basically getting kiddos to understand their needs. You, though, as parents, must know you're the advocates for your child. And so you've got to establish good rapport with your teachers. And again, your GT specialist is your go-to for your gifted kids because they truly are trained in understanding the affective needs of gifted kids and the higher mobility rates of some kids, although I would argue that that's kind of a boy thing sometimes too. I notice you have two good-looking sons right there. And so a lot of little boys are like that. And I do think we do a better job today than when a lot of us parents were in school, when we had the rows and the desks and we were never supposed to get up and we had to raise our hand to get up. If you go into a lot of our classrooms today, you will not see that structure anymore. We have alternative and flexible seating. Those grants that Jeff mentioned at the beginning today that our teachers can apply for, a lot of them have actually been to create flexible seating arrangements in their classrooms. So we're moving in the right direction. We have a lot more interactive learning opportunities, I believe, than when many of us were in school. But nothing happens overnight. So I'm sorry, she's got a question, and we almost are at 7. Yes.
I was just going to say, in regards to that, I was worried with my daughter that she would get, she's in 3rd grade now, but I was worried in 2nd grade that she would get in trouble for finishing the same thing that you described, or that she would get bored, or that she would get used to things being too easy, and then if anything became a challenge, she would be overwhelmed. So I spoke with her teacher last year and asked her specifically if she could make sure that she had a project at all times going on in the background that she could get to work on if she finished the classroom work, or just give her something more difficult. And the teachers will never turn you down if you ask for more. So.
Okay. And yes, students can test actually every year, but there is one test called the COGAT that can only be given once every 24 months. So we'll talk more individually if you guys have questions. Danny, can you come up here? I believe you had something to say, and we are almost at 7. And Danny is the most eloquent speaker. We don't want to miss Danny. So Danny is our vice president, correct?
So, yeah, I'm the vice president, and like Jeff said, we're not just parents of GT students, we're also alumni of the GT program. So I went to Glen Oaks Elementary School, I went to Pat Neff here, and I graduated from Holmes High School. And that has given us a really good perspective on what we try to bring to this group. And so something I always try to emphasize to the parents is that having a student identified as GT is not a guarantee of their success. Okay? And Jeff and I can both tell you about GT students who struggled to finish high school and be successful at the college level. And we can tell you kids that were not in GT that have gone on to do great things. I was the only GT student in my family, and I have 2 siblings, one that's a doctor of pharmacy and the other one that has a PhD. And I'm the underachiever as a computer engineer. So these things, this program in the district is a tool for you as a parent to help with your child. And the takeaway from this environment is that there are resources available to you. There are resources at the campus level, there's resources with your administration, and there's resources at the district level. And so if you feel like at any point you're not getting what you need out of your campus, this is why we're here. This is why the state of Texas recommends that we have a council, so that you have another place to go in case you need something. But it's no accident that these resources are in place. And I wanted to share a story with you that kind of emphasizes that a little bit. So in Northside, we have some traditions in how we name our schools. So for example, all of our high schools are named after Supreme Court justices. Oliver Wendell Holmes, John Marshall, Sandra Day O'Connor. Someday we may have the notorious RBG, who knows. But my kids go to William Thornton Elementary School. And I'm wondering, how many of y'all know who William Thornton is? just a few, right? And you'll understand why in a minute. Fundamentally, William Thornton was a Northside parent, just like y'all. He had 4 students. They all graduated from Holmes High School. And in 1968, he ran and was elected to the Northside Board. And he served 7 consecutive terms, 7 consecutive 3-year terms. And he retired in '87. And I know this because when you walk into Thornton Elementary School, on the right side there's a displaced case, and the Thornton family has donated some artifacts from his life. He was a World War II veteran. He was an Aggie. And he did a lot of things for the district that a lot of people remember. And the thing that caught my eye is that at the end of that display, there is a letter signed by Ronald Reagan thanking him for his 30 years of service as an Air Force civilian. Now, I am an Air Force civilian, and so this hit home pretty close. And he served in the Electronic Security Command here in San Antonio, which, in case you don't know, supports airmen all over the world. And he did this at a time that our country was in the middle of a Cold War. And so when I saw that letter, the first thing that came to mind was, I am so lazy that this man could serve our country in this way and our community as well. And the work that he did between '68 and '87 set up an infrastructure and in resources that me and Jeff leveraged through our education and helped shape us to who we are today. So as I was thinking about that, it occurred to me that today the organization he was a member of is called the 25th Air Force. And I could go into the 25th Air Force today and ask anyone there who William Thornton was, and nobody would know. Because the Air Force, we don't always maintain our legacy that way with our civilian personnel. But every school day, hundreds of elementary school kids scream with pride that they are Thornton Texans. And that legacy of community service and giving back and creating these institutions that we all leverage from today has served decades beyond what he's done in other areas. And so I just want to leave you guys with that as we start this new year, to think about ways that we can serve our communities. And some of that may just be as parents going to our GT coordinators and saying, hey, you guys need help with anything? Is there something that I can do? Because it takes all of us contributing little by little to make the institutions that we need and use today so that our kids, so that we can pass on to our kids what we received. So, and with that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I can always leave it up to Danny to try to get tears to come out of people's faces there. Thank you so much for that story, Danny. I appreciate that. Well, if there's no additional questions or comments, we will adjourn for the evening. Let me just remind you, November 8th from 5:30 to 7 is our next meeting right here at Patton F. Middle School is the main location. We have Dr. Woods tentatively scheduled as our guest speaker that evening, so we encourage the same crowd to come out and voice your concerns, ask your questions while the superintendent is here. Let me just leave you with this real quick, and I forgot to earlier mention my corny old analogy of the triangle. If you look at the GT program as a triangle-shaped metaphor, basically, you have one side that is students, one side that's parents, and one side that's educators. And the GTEAC is what's in the middle, kind of keeping them all together, I guess, right? We'll say that. But, we try to hold all those pieces together and bring them all together. I see we have students here, we have parents here, we have educators here. So, we're going in the right direction. So please help us continue that legacy with the Advisory Council. All right? Thank you guys so much.